Lucky Shot brings you this episode of the QA. It is the end of the month, which means it is time for the QA. My name is Dave Tim from Guns and Tactics. Thank you guys very much for spending a few minutes of your day watching or listening to this video where we answer your questions. Before we begin, if you want to see your question on the show, the best way is to email us. That email address is shown below. It is theqa@gunsandtactics.com. I do my absolute best to read and respond to as many comments as I can. However, sometimes there are just glitches where comments get lost or held for review for whatever reason. So I do apologize. So if you want to see your question on the show, best way is to email us. qa@gunsandtactics.com, and I will get your question onto the show. We do have 7 questions this month, which I think we have a variety of topics from training prep to M4 or AR stuff, shotgun stuff, gun safes, and more. So we're just going to get right to it here. Also, do want to give a special thank you to Lucky Shot again for sponsoring this month's episode. They are giving away the prize, which we will get to in a little bit. And if you guys didn't know, if you're new here, one lucky question asker gets a prize every month thanks to our sponsor. So make sure you send your questions in and you have a chance to win. And on top of that, we get to share knowledge and learn together. So I always do love doing this. Before we begin, I do have a question for you, and that is, if you have any requests, I know I've asked you guys this before, and I do have an ongoing list of content, to kind of make dedicated videos. In fact, a lot of the videos that we have done have stemmed from questions. So if there's a particular topic you want me to cover in its own episode, maybe a how-to, maybe a drill, or some sort of range video or whatever, again, leave those in the comments or shoot us an email. I always love to give that feedback. Now that it's going to be springtime, hopefully soon, range is going to open up back for me. I can get to my range right now. It's closed due to winter trails and things like that, but I can get back to that and start making more content going from there. So definitely looking forward to more range content. I've got some cool stuff planned. I got some new firearm stuff coming out, stuff that's not in our traditional wheelhouse, but kind of cool stuff to check out. And then last, what about live videos? What do you guys think about live videos? Now that I finally have a high-speed internet, I might start to do a little bit more live streaming. And if there's any particular events or topics that you guys would like to see live, go ahead and let me know. Sorry, I have the dogs here. Yeah, this is Lily. She's the leaper. She's definitely a jumper, but she's also the clingy one. She likes to cuddle and hang out. So if you get to see her on the show, you know you're a regular. So do appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys, like I said, are the inner circle. So let's get right to it. What do you think, Lily? Yeah. All right, maybe Lily will help pick the winner. First question is from Alexander. I've watched your YouTube video reviewing the Auto Range SA, and I was wondering what brand of headset cover. I did email you as well because I couldn't remember the exact brand. It was I want to say it was made in Canada. And that particular one has started to fray a little bit, but it's also a few years old. But if I was buying right now, I think the big headset cover that I would look at is from my friends down in, where are they? Not Red Wing, Minnesota. Winona, Minnesota, and that is Defense Mechanisms. I have their plate carrier, which I'm going to be doing a video on. I've shot with these guys at classes. I've been buying their gear, but Defense Mechanisms makes a headset cover, and I really think that that would be what I would be looking at. In fact, I'm probably going to pick up some of my own from their brand to add to my collection of ear protection, but Defense Mechanisms is who I would recommend. You can tell them I sent you. I don't get anything. I don't get any kickback. They just know where, you're hearing about it, which was just kind of helps me out a little bit too. Number 2, watched your video on the Voodoo, loved it, checked out their webpage and see that the exact one you have has an MSRP of $25.45. I really want to build one almost exactly like yours. Is that what I can expect to pay, or is there a lot of upcharges? You'll be pretty close to that. Obviously, some of the upcharges that you can anticipate would be if you add things like bipods or other accessories. However, I bought mine as a barreled action. It was provided, and then I got a stock courtesy of Grabo that I also did a review on, and then the trigger was provided for me as well. But you would have to add for a trigger if you wanted the Geisley, for example, like I have, which you can check out a review of the Geisley trigger up there. That would be an add-on. Any other accessories, any extra magazines, and then also I would recommend getting a bore guide or a cleaning kit from Voodoo. The bore guide really works well to make sure that your bore is protected when you're cleaning it with a rod, which is something you eventually will have to do with a 22, and having the proper bore guide helps to make sure that the rod is doing its job in aligning the bore guide, aligns the rod into the chamber, making sure there's no damage. And then also I would check out like a BoreTech one-piece rod of the appropriate size, which I believe are a 20 caliber because the bore guide's a little bit smaller. So you'll need a 20 caliber rod. But yeah, you'll be pretty close. Obviously, tax, title, license, shipping, all that stuff, but you'll be pretty close. And if you give them a call and just kind of talk through what you're looking for, please tell them that you saw my video. It really helps me as a channel grow. It helps me give me opportunities to do more reviews, maybe with Voodoo or other things. But I really would appreciate that. But give them a call. They're good people. They'll help you out. They'll answer any questions you might have. All right, this one is from Chad. That one was from Colin, by the way. Thank you very much for the question, Colin. This one is from Chad. And Chad actually is a fellow Minnesotan, and Chad and his family came to some of the classes that I was teaching locally a few years ago, so it's good to hear from you, Chad. I saw in the January you mentioned you are joining a new instruction group, and that is correct. I did join 88 Tactical. I'm one of their mobile training team instructors, and right now with them, that means that I'm traveling around the country teaching LE courses. And he was wondering if I'm going to be doing any Minnesota classes. And the answer is maybe. If we can find a host, Lily, go lay down. Sorry. If we can find a host to where you guys could help set up a range where either me or me and one of the other instructors from the Learning Firearms crew could come up and teach, we would absolutely love to. So yes, if you are interested in hosting, if you have a range or a club up there where I could come up and do a 1 or 2 day course and you could help out with some of the logistics, I could help out with registration, stuff like that. I would love to travel, and we just need good hosts to have us so we can show up and teach. But you need a local on-the-ground contact to help coordinate the range setup, ship targets to, help with setup, help coordinate like, hey, locals, here's a good place to go to lunch, here's a list of hotels, kind of that stuff. And then if you do host and we do get a number of paying students, you obviously would get a free slot or 2 depending on the class size. So yeah, absolutely. His other question is, he's trying to get into more teaching himself. Concealed carry is one. What would you recommend for doing that? He took the RSO course, but not sure what is next. There are other instructor groups out there, especially for permit to carry. So in Minnesota, for example, you have to have a Minnesota permit to carry instructor certification to teach it, or that course has to be approved by the BCA. So there are a number of organizations that will take you on and then teach you and certify you as an instructor teaching under their umbrella, so then you can teach the Minnesota Permit to Carry course under their brand. Now, obviously they take a little bit of a cut. That's just how some of these businesses work. I can't recommend a specific organization because I don't have experience with most of them. However, I would encourage you to check out, just start searching online for Minnesota Permit to Carry instructor course or Minnesota Permit to Carry trainer course, and they will hopefully give you a link or whatever, or you can reach out to some of the bigger organizations and say, hey, do you certify instructors under your company so I could teach them in my area? In essence, you're having like a franchise. So that's something you can definitely check out. And then as far as other courses, one of the things that I think a lot of instructors don't do is they just go to all these instructor courses and how to teach shooting drill courses and some of these shooting courses, but what they don't do is they don't work on their ability to teach. And by that, it's a lot of their ability to speak and communicate. So check out a local Toastmasters club or a local public speaking club or community college classes, and really start to get into more of the craft of public speaking and information delivery and sharing and delivery, because some of those skills are just as vital as your ability to shoot. You could be a really, really good shooter, but if you're a horrible communicator or if you're not able to develop rapport and establish respect from your students, it makes the message really hard to be received by your students. So those are all really, really important aspects of teaching that, in my opinion, are sometimes underemphasized in the instructor industry. So I would really look into those things as well. And then on top of that, go to as many shooting courses as you can. It doesn't have to be an instructor level course, kind of like what I talked about in last month's QA. It can be a course that you go to and you're gaining. Any course that I go to, I make an instructor course because I'm going with the mindset of bettering my instructor craft, which is a term I made up, by the way. Instructor craft, trademark, but it's a course that I go to with the with the goal of making it better. The term I use is my instructor craft. One more question here before we get into our break. This one is from Scott. He'd like to buy his first gun safe, something big enough for long guns, a few random valuables. There's so many brands and options available, and it's really confusing. Would you be able to give advice on what to look for? And then he actually is bringing us this month's dad joke. Hey, did you hear about the guy named T-Rex who was arrested by the ATF? He's a small arms dealer. Get it? T-Rex, small arms? Yeah. I thought that was pretty good. So I saved the dad joke for Scott's dad joke. Thank you very much, Scott. So real quick with safes. Here's the thing. number one, always buy bigger than what you think you will need. It is never an issue filling one up. However, I know a lot of people who have had to buy two or have had to sell something and to get an upgraded one or whatever. So if you are thinking about buying a large safe, I would encourage you to buy a 2XL or 3XL safe. Again, it's always better to have the extra room. It's always better to put other stuff in there. Buy once, cry once, versus having to buy the large or the medium safe and then eventually fill it up. That's just kind of how it goes. Now, with safes, this is the thing that's kind of tough. A lot of the safes out there are what's called a residential security cabinet. So if you look at the rating, it will have an RSC rating. And that rating is going to basically give you about how long it would take someone with average tools to break into it, and then there's usually a fire rating. Now, most of the residential security cabinets, and again, these are the safes that are anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, $6,000, just how big they are and how fancy of a lock and what kind of finish and shelves. But the reality is the shell is some sort of thick sheet metal. Some are thicker than others. The fire protection is either sheetrock, which is really common, or some sort of poured material. Some of them will have concrete the higher up you go. And then again, it's shelves and interior. The reality is the residential security cabinet, whether there's a $1,000 to $2,000 one or a $5,000 one, the ratings on them aren't that far apart. So the $2,000 one isn't going to necessarily give you, half of the protection a $4,000 one would give you, or likewise, a $4,000 one is not giving you double the security rating. In fact, some of them can be the same security rating. It's just a matter of size or weight, things like that. And that's kind of a tough pill for people to swallow, because they think they're buying this $5,000, $6,000 safe, but it's really a sheet metal box with some sheetrock. So a safe does a really good job of keeping kids out, keeping honest people honest, giving you a little bit of protection against basic thieves, things like that. However, I've been to several burglaries over my career as a police officer where I've seen safes compromised. Now, I'm not going to get into how they have been compromised, but I will say that it's not hard, with a little bit of time and some basic tools, to compromise a residential security cabinet. Now, if you had the money to buy a real safe, go to a real safe dealer and they're going to tell you then the differences. We use 1/4 inch thick metal all the way around. We use, these types of hinges, these types of bolts. Our fire protection is this. And you have to ask yourself, what's more important? Some safes out there can have, like 3/16 inch thick metal, but they'll have very little fire protection. That's more of a theft deterrent versus a fire protective type safe. The other thing is there are some safes that are do-it-yourself safes at home that have very little fire protection, but they give you the metal exoskeleton that you put together and bolt together from the inside. These are great for apartment or townhome owners that may need to move something in the future, or may not need a permanent solution, may need something that's easier to move to their next place, that type of thing. So those safes work really well. Ultimately, a safe should be out of sight, out of mind. Think of your security as an onion. It should have multiple layers. So number one, we don't want to be advertising too much so that you have a bunch of valuables. Number two, you should have some sort of residential security system, whether that's cameras, an alarm system, a combination of both, exterior lighting, things like that. And then your safe should be out of sight, out of mind. Lily, go lay down. Go lay down. So if someone were to get into your house, they have to get through one layer, and then they have to get through another layer, then they have to get through another layer. So it's a multiple layered system working together to protect your investment. And another significant important should be an insurance policy. In the event of fire or theft, you want to make sure that your investment is protected. And that's a conversation that you need to have with your insurance agent, because not every insurance company covers things the same versus fire versus theft versus loss. So you want to make sure you're talking to them about that and what you need to maybe schedule, what appropriate values you need to have. And that is an excellent conversation that you should have with your insurance agent, or maybe even an insurance company that specializes in firearms insurance. So that is kind of my take on safes. A little bit, maybe we'll have a future video, maybe meeting with a local safe expert or something where we can do more of a dedicated video. So that might be a good idea for the future. Before we get into our last questions, let's give a quick shout out and thank you to Lucky Shot. Lucky Shot makes some very unique glassware and gift items for the firearms enthusiast or shooting enthusiast in your life. They make really cool gift items, glassware with actual bullets in them, so it's a great conversation piece. Shot glasses, drink glasses, all sorts of other really cool, unique gift items on their webpage, and that is Lucky Shot USA. Make sure you check out their webpage, go ahead and use the coupon code, show it on the screen to save yourself a little bit of money, and that also just tells them where you heard about Lucky Shot. We would appreciate that. But they want to save you a little bit of money for our viewers as well. Plus, they're giving away our winner this month with a cool prize, again, from Lucky Shot. So if you guys are looking for a really cool gift, either for yourselves or someone in your life that you think they would appreciate something unique and cool, make sure you check out Lucky Shot online, and we appreciate their support of the QA series. All right, let's get right back to it. This one's from Derek. Dave, wondering if you're going to do any more restoring videos, kind of like the old pawn shop shotgun on the old channel. Yeah, I might. And number one, we have to finish the pawn shop shotgun. I actually just had a meeting with Trevor, and we are going to wrap it up. We have the majority of it filmed, but we have to get a couple other segments done, and then we'll have the studio portion. And we'll actually upload that to the old channel just to kind of cover it, because even today, it's like 4 years later, and we still get comments like, where's part 5? Where's part 5? And for those of you guys that don't know, we started this makeover series called the Pawn Shop Shotgun, where Trevor bought a pawn shop shotgun, and I think the total amount invested was like under $500 to convert it to like a modern tactical or defense or patrol type shotgun. And the last video we covered was refinishing and painting it, but we did a video where we took it apart, talked about the parts, some basic disassembly, refinishing, and now this last video that we still haven't completely done is the reassembly and shooting of the pawn shop shotgun. So that'll be something to look forward to, hopefully this spring. Number 6, I have a question regarding M4 feed ramps on an AR upper receiver. Recently got his hands on a stripped upper, but it does not have M4 feed ramps. The barrel does. Planning on utilizing a 10.5-inch barrel. Will the two work together, or do I need to have a gunsmith cut the ramps into the upper? Thanks in advance. Appreciate your videos. From Andrew. What he's talking about in the barrel extension of a AR-15 barrel, there's these two small cuts. They almost kind of look like spades of a shovel, and they are your feed ramps. And there's two of them because the magazine is a double-fed magazine. So rounds, when they're fed, can either be coming from the left or the right side of the magazine. The feed ramps are traditionally in the barrel extension. However, when we developed, and I mean the industry, developed M4 feed ramps, as these feed ramps were extended into the upper receiver as well. So it was a little bit more of a larger feed ramp, making feeding hopefully more reliable. Now, the issue is if you have an upper receiver that does not have these cuts, but the barrel extension does, you'll most likely be okay. However, if you had a receiver that did have the cuts, but the barrel extension did not, in essence, then you're kind of making this weird kind of this step or this shelf, if you will, and technically a round could get caught in there, and that would be a problem. You would have to have the feed ramps opened up on the barrel extension to match the M4 feed ramps of the upper receiver. Now, in your specific case, your barrel extension has the larger M4 feed ramps, but the upper receiver does not. So it all of a sudden comes to a hard stop, and then it doesn't blend smoothly. That's truthfully a really easy job for a qualified AR advanced armorer or gunsmith. In fact, when I've done it here, I want to say I maybe charge $20, $25 for it, because it's a relatively quick job to cut and polish those feed ramps. So if you're looking for what's best, what's optimal, yeah, have them cut. It's a really, like I said, relatively easy job. If you wanted to send it to me, I'd be more than happy to do it. And I'd just charge you a little bit for time and shipping back, but you can send me an email if that's what you're interested in. Otherwise, you can find somebody local to you that I'm sure could take care of you. But it would just make things best. You already have the feed ramps cut into the barrel extension. It's easy to cut them in the upper receiver. So no brainer there is what I would do. Last question. And this is a good one. We're going to probably spend a couple minutes talking about this. This is from Kevin. What are some tips and tricks that people can do before taking a red dot pistol class to make the class more beneficial? And then he lists some example questions. Practice, 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 muscle memory, develop a strong grip so it doesn't jump around as much in recoil, zero the red dot, if so, what distance, what good advice do you have as an instructor? And then his last comment is, there's so many red dot courses and ammo is super expensive. What things can be done to develop these skills at a local level so we can eventually attend a red dot class in the future? In Chicago, there are 2 red dot classes being offered per year, and those 30 students may be dedicated, but that throughput is not enough for millions of gun owners in the area. Well, number one, if you have a range or something, I'd love to come visit Chicago. I've heard the pizza down there is really good. I think it'd be really cool. So if you could help organize a class, I bet you we could probably make coming down there a possibility. I'd love to see Chicago, and that's not too far from me. All right, that's a great topic. Number one, I would say this: go into the class with an open mind and a good attitude, ready to learn, and also be ready to try new things. new techniques, adjust your grip, a different trigger, a different way to present the gun, whatever it might be, have an open mind. My biggest hurdle as an instructor is when I try to have a student do something to truly improve their performance. Most commonly, it's grip. Most commonly, it's grip. Grip is one of the most underemphasized fundamentals in my opinion. I stress grip so much in my classes, and I often argue that grip is one of the most important aspects of good fundamentals of marksmanship. And I'll debate this with anybody. I'll have a good conversation. I'm not saying it is the sole fundamental, okay, because it's a system, if you will. But how I teach fundamentals is a little different than how a lot of other instructors teach fundamentals. And grip is very, very, very important. And it's, like I said, often underemphasized. So I spend a lot of time on grip, and I talk about why and things like that. So my biggest hurdle, though, is when I have somebody try a new grip or what is new to them, they keep reverting back to their old one. Sometimes it's out of habit. Sometimes it's out of muscle memory. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, as Jedi would say. But the reality is, if you want to improve your performance, you're going there, you're spending the time, you're spending the money. Why don't you try what the instructor is offering? I'm trying to correct a grip, whether it's like a high thumbs grip or like a low grip or whatever it might be. I'm trying to get them to control the gun better, but they keep reverting because it's not as comfortable. Yes, don't you agree with that? Now, one of the things that we need to be aware of is we need to be willing to try new things and realize that because it's new and it's different, our performance or our immediate feedback is probably going to be negative at first because, again, we're trying something new. But it's important that we give it a good old college try and run it a few drills, and a good instructor should not penalize you for that. I've had other instructors in the past where you would try their technique and your shooting would actually get worse, and they'd be like, yeah, well, that sucks and blah, 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 but you're trying something new. You're still kind of feeling it out. You're getting to know it. Work with them. A good instructor should work with them and embrace the technique and then allow them to hopefully have, improved performance. You need to go lay down. You need to go lay down, or maybe they need to go outside. I don't know. So I would say have an open mind, be willing to learn. Developing a good grip for managing recoil, of course, is important. Practice is important. Some good presentation, some good reps. However, learning proper presentation is where a good instructor can really help. One of the most common struggles and challenges that I get from students is, I can't find the dot. How do I find the dot? How do I find the dot quick? How do I find the dot every time consistently? And those are things that we will go over in class. So those are some things that you can practice. As far as zeroing, yes, make sure your optic is thoroughly mounted. I'm going to be doing an updated video on how to mount an optic to a pistol, because I think that's something that just needs to be redone. The one that I have is a few years old now, and although it has a lot of views, I think it's time for an update. Things have changed, things have updated a little bit. So make sure your optic is mounted properly, degreased, thread locked, witness marked, paint marker, all that stuff. We definitely want to make sure that it is properly mounted so you don't lose your red dot. The last class, yes, I believe it was the last class, we had an RMR fly off a gun. That same class, we had another optic that was loose. The class before that, we had a couple optics come loose. So that happens. We want to make sure it's properly mounted and zeroed. I recommend 10 yards. Some instructors will say 20, 25. I recommend 10. I have my reasons for why. I can certainly go into that more. Maybe I'll do an updated zeroing video as well. But those are all things that could really help. And then obviously, if you have a good, solid understanding of the fundamentals, that is always going to serve you well. So if you're a good shooter with iron sights, you're going to be a good shooter with a red dot, and those things are going to carry you forward. So hopefully that is some help there, and that kind of gives you a little bit to go on. And if you want to see more detailed on the topic, we can maybe do another episode on like prepping for a class or something like that, because I think those would be good things to talk about. Let's get our prize taken care of. Again, thank you to Lucky Shot for supplying this month's prize. We are going to pick a random number. We did have a total of 7 questions. And we also did get some great comments, which I've tried to respond to, but I did not see any questions in the comments, but I've tried to reply to as many comments as I can. I do appreciate the comments, by the way. So of our 7, our lucky number is number 3. Number 3 is... And look at that, number 3 is Minnesota local Chad. So Chad, congratulations for winning this month's prize. We'll be in touch and get your shipping address and get you a prize from Lucky Shot. Again, guys, if you want to see your question make it to the show, the best way is to email us. Email address is theqa@gunsandtactics.com. Please send your questions in, or send your show requests, or leave comments. You can watch us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I believe we're even posting to like Pinterest, all that other stuff now too. Please spread the word. The more that we can grow, the cooler things that we can do. want to like, share, and subscribe, I would really appreciate that if you like the content as well. Thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great day. We work really hard to make content that we hope you as a shooter would enjoy. Subscribe to our channel, check out our featured videos and playlists, and if you have a question firearms related, go ahead and send an email to the address shown on the screen to be entered into our monthly QA series.